least entertaining, most self-obsessed, worst series on Netflix in its history, the final nail in the coffin of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's entertainment career.
At this point, the most revealing part of another Polo project is not Polo. It is the desperation behind the idea. Because when a documentary fails to land, and the answer is, let's do it again, but scripted, that does not feel like creative momentum. It feels like a brand walking back into the same dead room, hoping the lighting was the problem. And that is really the story here. Not horses, not Wellington, not elite rivalries dressed up as prestige TV. The story is that Harry and Meghan keep circling the same shrinking patch of ground, trying to make old material look new. That pattern showed up again long before the Deadline article. Meghan appeared at the Alliance of Children's Rights event where her friend Kelly was being honored, and the footage that came out of it had that same familiar feeling, an ordinary moment being pushed into content. There was the clinging body language, the awkward overfamiliarity, the sense that everything had to become a visual. Then came the bathroom clip, where Meghan and her entourage walked in on two women filming a TikTok. On paper, that is supposed to read as spontaneous and relatable, a fun, candid interruption. The problem is what happened next. Meghan posted about the moment, called them the gals in the ladies' room, and shared the content without properly crediting the creators behind it. That matters more than it sounds. Because if you want the upside of internet culture, the least you can do is acknowledge the people who made the moment you are borrowing. That is basic social media etiquette. It is not always enforced, but people notice when it is missing. And in this case, the whole thing ended up feeling less like a genuine interaction and more like content extraction. Take the clip. Take the vibe. Leave out the creators. That is the problem with so much of this public image strategy now. It wants to feel organic, but it keeps looking assembled. Even the smaller details feed that impression. In the reel, there is a little side turn toward one of the women, and the commentary around it is that Meghan does this often. Those quick profile angles, those camera-aware head movements that seem designed less for the person beside her and more for the lens in front of her. Whether you agree with that read or not, it fits a larger perception issue. Too many moments feel performed before they feel lived. And once you notice that, you start seeing it everywhere. Take the As Ever Instagram repost. The account shared a small piece of another creator's reel, but not the whole thing. And when the full clip is viewed in context, the reason for the selective edit becomes pretty obvious. The larger spread on the table included a rival company's product, not Meghan's. So what made the cut was the narrowest possible slice that still kept the brand in frame. Again, that is the real pattern. Trim the edges, control the image, keep the illusion intact. The cookie mix detail only made it look worse. The reel used As Ever cookie mix that, according to the source material, had not been available for purchase for quite some time. The commentary's interpretation is that these products may have been sitting around for months and were finally being used because they had to be. Whether that is exactly right or not, the optics are still rough. If the brand is thriving, why does the content feel this scavenged? Why does it look like people are reaching into the back of a cupboard instead of showing real enthusiasm for the line? And all of that sets up the bigger story. Deadline reports that Harry and Meghan are executive producing another Polo project for Netflix, this time a scripted drama rather than the 2024 docuseries. The show is described as an upstairs-downstairs drama set in Wellington, Florida, focused on rival teams and the families around them. You can already see the pitch: wealth, competition, prestige, family tension, maybe even a little Succession energy if you squint hard enough. But there is one major problem. The first Polo project already tested this material, and almost nobody cared. That is not just a matter of taste. The source points to the original docuseries ranking down at 3,436 on Netflix's list, which tells you just how little impact it made. The reviews were brutal in that concise way that stings more than a long takedown. Tedious, mostly boring, destined to fall into the submenus at the speed of light. One critic said it felt like a spoof documentary designed to play in the background of Succession. That is not a rough debut. That is a warning. So the obvious question is not whether a scripted version could be slightly better paced. It is why anyone thinks the subject itself suddenly becomes compelling because the format changed. This is where the whole thing starts to look less like development and more like obligation, less like Netflix chasing a great idea, and more like Netflix trying to extract something, anything, from a deal that has not produced much that stuck. That brings in the most telling part of the coverage. Netflix Chief Content Officer Bella Baharia insisting the company still has a relationship with Harry and Meghan, still has movies in development, still has projects on the TV and film side. Technically, that is a defense. But tonally, it sounds like one too. Because when executives have to keep reminding people that the relationship is alive, that reminder can become the story. Especially when the concrete examples remain vague. There is a relationship. There are things in development. There are projects somewhere in the pipeline. Fine. But what exactly is working? What is moving? What is landing? That uncertainty is what makes the Polo revival feel so strange. And it is also what opens the door to the bigger theory running underneath all of this. The theory is not that Netflix truly believes Polo has hidden blockbuster potential. The theory is that Netflix is keeping the Sussex connection warm until it can get the project that would actually generate attention. A major Diana documentary tied to the 30th anniversary of her death in 2027. That is interpretation, not confirmed fact, but it explains more than the Polo story does. It would explain why a badly received docuseries gets another life in a new format. It would explain why the relationship keeps being defended in public despite weak visible returns. And it would explain why renewed media attention around Diana, including a recent People piece revisiting the final hours before the 1997 crash, suddenly feels less random to some observers than it first appears. If that is the real play, then the Polo drama is not the main event. It is filler. It is movement for the sake of movement while everyone waits for the one subject with guaranteed emotional gravity. Harry, Diana, memory, grief, legacy. And if that is true, it says something pretty bleak about where this whole brand is now. Because once a public identity gets down to this stage, the pattern becomes easy to read. The casual moments do not feel casual. The reposts look overly managed, the projects feel recycled, the official statements sound defensive. And the future starts leaning on the past because the present is not strong enough to carry itself. That is why this new Polo story lands with such a thud. It is not just that Polo sounds boring to a lot of people. It is that nobody believes this is happening because demand suddenly appeared. It feels like another attempt to make something work, simply because there is not much else left to push. So no, the real headline is not that Netflix has found a bold new angle on equestrian drama. The real headline is that after one Polo flop, the answer somehow seems to be more Polo, more curation, more packaging, more insistence that the machine is still moving. Maybe the scripted version will be better made. Maybe it will even find a niche audience. But based on the first round, that is not the safest bet. The safer bet is this: the sport was never the draw. The title was never the draw. The draw was always proximity to status, royalty, money, and the possibility that something more emotionally loaded was still coming. And until that arrives, this is what the holding pattern looks like. And that is the real endgame here. Not reinvention, not momentum, just repetition dressed up as relevance. The projects keep changing shape, but the pattern stays the same. A weak launch, a polished reframe, another attempt to squeeze attention out of the same shrinking story. And at some point, that stops looking like ambition and starts looking like a brand running on fumes. If Netflix really believes Polo is the answer, then they are solving the wrong problem. Because the issue was never the format. It was never documentary versus drama. The issue is that people have seen this cycle before, and each time it gets harder to pretend there is something bigger around the corner. So now the question is not whether this works. The question is how many more times they can repackage the same formula before the audience checks out completely. That is where this saga stands. Not rising, not evolving, just spinning. And when the next move drops, you already know we'll be here to break it down properly. Stay locked in with BarzBuzz if you want the full story without the PR gloss, because this one is far from over. If this saga had you shook, wait till you see what's next. You already know what it is. BarzBuzz got the real, raw, and unfiltered breakdowns. So don't forget to like, subscribe, drop a comment, and share this with someone who needs to catch up.